one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it because you can.
Guys, I got a story that just came in yesterday evening, and I just saw it today. I wanted to give it to you. Where a man was awarded $33 million by a jury in San Bernardino County for failure to report neglect of a child by several deputy sheriffs and a welfare fraud investigator, which the jury found was a substantial factor in the child being sexually abused by a former deputy sheriff from the time he was 14 to 17 years old, according to an announcement late last week. Now, the unidentified child abuse survivor was taken in by former San Bernardino County Deputy Sheriff Jeremy Cox, a 25-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department, when the child was 13 or 14. Cox, according to a news release from the victim's attorneys, first met the boy around 2012. Over the next year and a half, the deputy reportedly befriended the boy, allowing him to eat, play video games, and watch shows at his house. He even began taking the teen on camping trips and hikes. Now, during that time, the victim's attorneys say Deputy Cox learned that the child's mother was neglecting him and leaving him alone for long bouts and not feeding him proper food, as well as likely abusing drugs. That's all alleged. Deputy Cox considered but decided against filing a child neglect report because he did not want the child to go into foster care, the release stated. Quote, instead of reporting the neglect of the child by his mother to CPS, Deputy Cox chose to communicate with the child's mother directly and arranged to have the child move into Deputy Cox's home, end quote. Now, over the next 3 years, lawyers say Cox sexually abused the teen. The deputy also began involving in the San Bernardino County Sheriff's community, bringing him to department workspaces, the courthouse, arranging for ride alongs with other deputies. Now, eventually, the teen reported his mother to the county's Welfare Fraud Investigation Unit because she continued to receive welfare funds to care for him, but had not done so in 3 years. His mother was later charged, convicted, and jailed for welfare fraud. After finally being able to move out of the deputy's home, the victim, who was around 21 years old at the time, reported the sexual abuse to authorities. Cox, who was 50 at the time of his arrest, living in Yucca Valley, was taken into custody on September 17th of 2021 while he was on duty. He later entered a plea and was sentenced to prison in California. The victim's civil trial against San Bernardino County began on August 26th of this year and lasted 4 weeks, with the verdict returned on September 23rd. It was just recently. Even though he reportedly suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and agoraphobia, the victim testified at the trial. Quote, this is believed to be the largest reported verdict for failure to report child neglect by mandated reporters, and is also believed to be the largest reported verdict related to failure of a law enforcement agency employees to report child neglect that resulted in subsequent child sexual abuse by a member of the same law enforcement agency whose employees failed to report the preceding child neglect. That's all according to a release. Now, in response to KTLA's request for comment, San Bernardino County Public Information Officer Gloria Huerta said, we are not providing statements at this time as appeals may be filed. And maybe that's true. Maybe she doesn't want to bring liability onto the sheriff's department. And obviously they lost. This guy received $33 million. He's set for life. Because even if the attorneys get a third of that, he still gets 22 million. I mean, hello, you know. Um, but again, what troubled me about this was a couple of things. One, it was a deputy that was not only accused of this, convicted and sentenced. A deputy, a law enforcement officer, somebody who kids are supposed to trust. Who do we trust anymore? You can't trust the cops. And I believe, in my own humble opinion, that there are some good cops out there, but who are they? We don't know. All we're asking you guys to do is your jobs. That's it. And do your job with integrity, with ethics, and responsibly. That's all we're asking. It's not that difficult. Just to do your freaking job. No, some people have to be eggheads. And I'm sure, looking at the time frames of when this guy was arrested, convicted, and so forth, he was under the John McMahon administration of the sheriff's department. And no knock on Sheriff Shannon Dykes. This is no knock on you at all. But I will say this: John McMahon's administration, ouch. Meaning that he had high standards. He was a tough administrator, and I mean that in a good way. He was a tough guy. He didn't take no shenanigans. He get fired. Just wanted to bring that to your attention because there's another one where not only the sheriff, and I may have done a story on this. I don't remember if I did a story on this or not. But there's another one where a cop was found to be guilty, convicted, and sentenced for being a Chester molester with kid. And the kid gets $33 million.